Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Andrew Donovan. A tough financial situation at the United Way of Central New York. Because of dwindling donations, it's forced to cut at least $1 million in total grants to other charities in the region. Here are the hits those partner agencies say they're up against. Catholic Charities' $500,000 award last year is down to just $15,000 this year. The Salvation Army's $375,000 funding is down to also only $15,000. The Center for Community Alternatives has an average of about $150,000 each year previously. That's now down to $15,000 also. When the organization had to come forward with these tough decisions, its leaders came to News Channel 9 for the first interview. Here now, my conversation earlier this week with the local United Way's president and CEO, Carrie and board chair, Ryan Benz. Carrie, let's start with you. The United Way is coming forward with some serious financial difficulties. What can you tell me, and why is this the time you want to speak about it?
Yeah, so over the course of 5 years, we've been really supporting our nonprofits and giving them the funding that we promised them in that grant cycle and filling it with the endowment funding that they had. So now we just want to come forward in a sense of telling our story that we're still here, we're still a partner, we're still here for them. But unfortunately, we had to decrease the amount that we gave out this year. In the past, campaign revenue has been down about 11% on average. But we're here and we still want to be supportive of our nonprofits. They need us more than ever right now.
You're new to this organization, therefore you're relatively new to the problem in the history here. But Ryan, you've been on the board for several years. You're now the chairman. So as chairman, but with the history you have here, how would you define the problem and how you've gotten to where you are?
The challenges United Way faces today are not exclusive to the United Way of Central New York or giving across the community nationally. And the reality is that in general, charitable giving is down at the same time as need is up. And so, as Carrie mentioned, giving historically here to the United Way of Central New York has been down approximately 11% year over year for the last 5 years, and in some years more, some years significantly more. And yet I think I'm very proud for the full board in that while donations have been down, that's where we had a chance to lean on our own endowments to make sure that the amount that we're allocating towards our organizations has remained the same. So funding went down and we continued leaning against our endowment to fund those organizations. The question is what does the future look like? And while this organization is strong, we need to increase our giving here at the United Way so that we can do more for this community. The need is not going down, but the funding is. So we need more help, now more than ever before.
Before we get too far into the conversation, I want to back up so that people understand how the United Way is a unique organization. Basically, people give to you so you can give to others, as opposed to so many other charities where the giving is more direct. Could you explain that to people to make sure they understand what the United Way does and its mission?
Yeah, the best way I can describe it as I'm new here is we're not just one mission. We're our community's mission and all of our nonprofits, all of our partner organizations' mission. And we're convening folks together to make that impact. We're trying to help fill the gaps where they might need funding for it. And we're trying to listen to our partner organizations to hear what they need so that when we're at the table with an organization, they say, hey, we want to give to this. Well, let's partner them up together. We're truly trying to be the convener and the connector.
And what's the process like for someone to ask for funding?
Folks can apply and put in what they need for. Organizations can apply for multiple programs. It might not just be one program. So that's where a differentiation of funding goes. So then we have a committee that comes together, convenes and reviews those applications, and then designates the funding out.
Are they one-time grants per application, or does it, for some organizations, reoccur?
For the past couple of years, you've done 3-year cycles.
Well, I think that's what differentiates United Way. So when we go out to the community, we will make our commitments to our non-for-profit partners generally in multi-year cycles. However, that means that we're also committing funds that we've yet to receive, and that's where that delta has arisen in the past, where we need to lean on our endowments or our funds are. It is different for us that we said, well, this year, let's just do 1 year. Let's make sure that the organization is stable. Unfortunately, that means a reduction, but we're also optimistic that we're going to be leaning in on fundraising this year to bring this back up to a multi-year commitment in the future.
About how many partners do you have? How many different organizations do you give to?
Yeah, it changes every year or every 3 years generally, which is how we've done it in the past. But we're talking dozens of organizations. And what I love about it is that, as Carrie mentioned, it's not just the number of organizations, it's the number of programs. So historically, we would contribute, donate, coordinate therewith 3 dozen, on or about 3 dozen different non-for-profits and over 70 different programs that are funded in part through the United Way. It takes a village. The United Way is the village of Central New York giving, and that's the opportunity, that's the need that we need to continue filling here.
What are some of your bigger partners so people know kind of where the money ends up? What kind of work does it go to? Could you name some examples for us?
Oh, it's like you said, though, there's so many that, we support. And what's amazing, though, is that they really, truly value being a partner organization, because when we're out in the community, we talk about them all. When we go do workplace campaigns and we go and talk about, hey, give today, please. Here's a list of folks that we support. That's what the value of being a partner organization with United Way is that we're out there telling your story and really getting your mission out there.
More with the leaders of the United Way when Newsmakers continues. So now the community is briefed on your mission and kind of how you're oriented. So now let's refocus in on the problem. You were able to commit to the previously promised 3-year commitments, but you had to use basically your own investment money to keep that promise?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're talking post-COVID worlds, and at the time, again, the need has just been astronomical. And we felt at the time we committed to a 3-year cycle with our partner agencies. The board and we all said, it's not the right time to cut. We understand that giving is down, but this is the rainy day, if you will. So for as long as we could, we mustered it up and we continued to fund at 100%. We did that for the 3-year cycle. And now we need to take a moment. We need to make sure that the organization is ready for another 100 years. We just celebrated our centennial. And it's the appropriate time to take a step back to make sure that we're giving what we can afford to give. But the reality is that we all need more right now.
I know none of the factors that you attribute to giving being lower is unique to the United Way of Central New York. I'm sure other United Ways are going through it. I'm sure every charitable organization is going through it. But let's run through the list that you all provided me. You rely on personal donations. And so if families are struggling because of affordability issues at home, you see your giving get cut from the budgets. Is that an accurate assessment? Yeah,
let's be honest. All of our neighbors are struggling right now. The cost of living is expensive. So those folks that sometimes might have done $1, $5 paycheck might not be able to. And as an organization that understands, we have to be understanding to that too.
So many companies go through their payrolls in order to make a donation. So employees can sign up through their human resources departments, get a money taken out of their paycheck and given to you. I know that I've done it personally through Channel 9 before. But businesses have higher costs. And again, families getting anything taken out of their paycheck is something that they're now struggling with. So even the impact on businesses is affecting you.
No doubt. And if you look at the makeup of Central New York businesses over the last 20 or 30 years, we've lost manufacturing. The way that some of our larger employers have donated now is at the national level instead of at the local level. So in addition, it's a decrease in the workforce from a manufacturing perspective and others. While businesses are absolutely under more strain as well. What we have found is that where there's been the greatest opportunity and really a lot of local businesses are stepping up is in event sponsorship, with underwriting certain events, and or making sizable or matching donations. That's really gone a long way to help us kind of fill that gap. And I don't want to acknowledge all the companies, but there's been so many that have done that. And again, it just goes back, it takes a village, so we need all of our neighbors that can, to lean in.
Also on your list is that federal funding is declining. I'm wondering if you could speak to the impact of federal funding.
That's what our partner agencies are struggling with. You're getting cut by federal funding. Pricing for our community neighbors are going up, so it's hard for them to give. They're struggling, so we need to act. We need to rise up and support our partner organizations and try to give what you can. Every bit does truly help, and we'll be able to help fill those gaps with them.
You don't want to make everything in life political, but do you attribute that to the current administration that federal funding is down?
You know, I don't think it's the current administration. I think that the reality is that the federal government or the state government are under just the same stresses as we all are. You know, life is getting more expensive and there's limited resources. So I don't think it's a criticism of that. I think it's the reality of certain economics and how do we fill in that gap for our partner agencies.
So while the money is less, your streams of income are down, what's being asked of you is more. People are struggling. The programs and partners you have are filling those gaps and then looking to you to fill the gaps. So it's literally a perfect storm of financials moving in different directions. Is that a fair assessment?
I think you described the issue exceedingly well. Gosh, you know, and we're all committed to a more equitable future across this region. We see a tremendous economic development opportunities, but how do we make sure everybody's participating in there? The reality is that there's a wider gap between those that have and those that don't have. How do we continue to close that gap in a world that's getting more expensive? It's organizations like the United Way that try to fill that gap. It's organizations like the Financial Empowerment Center or Thrive at Work, or making sure that children know how to read or understand, you know, financial literacy in general, you know. Community resiliency, things like food safety or housing stability, all of these things are more expensive, and we need to, that's what the United Way does. Through our dozens of organizations that we support, we try to make life a little easier for individuals and to make sure that they have the tools to be successful from a long-term perspective.
So we've gone through somewhat of the global causes of this, but I'm wondering if there's any more local causes. Is it something in central New York? And how are you operating as an efficient organization? Do you have to make any changes to how you do the work?
I think the biggest thing right now, Andrew, is that, like Ryan was saying, there's an economic opportunity happening within our community. We need to keep on connecting with those folks and telling the stories of all of our nonprofits. And connecting with them to give. I mean, that is our true opportunity. You know, also, the fact is we want to hear from our listening partners saying they have this amount of funding, right? And they've been able to do this with this. They've been able to battle childhood literacy problems, fund food, etc. But if we had this much money, this is the impact we could have. This is where we could fight some of these issues that are happening within our community. Because as I would say you're probably one of the #1 CNY lovers, right? You are a CNY champion. That's what we want to be here at United Way too, is a CNY champion for all.
You talk about the economic opportunity presenting itself to Central New York. Have you had conversations with, I don't know, the big company coming, Micron?
They are an amazing partner. I want to say that, you know, they have come to us too, and we've had great conversations about, you know, where are the needs? And that's what United Way is here for, is to hear our partners, listen to them, and hear what they're struggling with and what their needs are. So when we're at that table, we can tell them.
And I want to go back to a prior question about efficiencies here. Is your organization having to go through any changes because of this financial change?
I mean, yes, we've absolutely decreased our staff a bit, but we are still working full steam ahead and fighting every day to get every dollar that we can.
I'm wondering how specific we can get. You talk about an 11% reduction in giving. What kind of percentage then has to be passed along to the grant applicants? How much fewer dollars are these partners getting?
It's a great question. The reality is that a decrease of that magnitude, and it's not for 1 year, it's year over year, ultimately results in a 7-figure decrease in the amount that we're able to pass on to our agencies that we fund. And so, look, the reality is that we need to not only replenish that fund, but then also build for the future. You know, I think we're in the process right now of launching a new $3 million fund that helps us close that gap and then prepare for the future just in that way.
You said a 7-figure decrease. That means the United Way is giving $1 million less across the partners that you have because of this financial issue.
The need is tremendous. You know, and you go back talking about the local need. You know, we're living in an area where 46.5% of children within the city of Syracuse live in poverty, right? The need is tremendously horrible in this region in terms of how do we solve these problems. So when you have $1 million+ gap on an annual basis, and it's not a gap on our side, but the amount that we can contribute to our partner agencies, we need help.
Some of our partner agencies either have received half of what they received in years past or none at all, right? So that is struggle for them. And this is why this is important to get this message out, because we need to wrap our arms around them.
Yeah, the challenge is for some of our partner agencies that have received funds for a long time, going from significant 6-figure investments to either zero or reduced, it hurts their bottom line. It hurts the impact that they're trying to solve for.
I'm wondering if you could speak to how you filled the gap the last 3 years. We talked about investments in general, but I mean, it was almost, is it robbing Peter to pay Paul? Is it taking from the financial stability of the United Way just to keep your promises to these partners?
The financial stability of the organization is not to be, it shouldn't be questioned. We're in a very strong position overall, and there's a business decision that's made between borrowing from today to make sure that the commitments of today are also acknowledged. The reality is that the need is not going down. So if you're not saving up for the rainy day, what are you saving for? The board was responsible in working with our consultants, our auditors, and others to determine the amount that we can withdraw to make sure that we're preserving, the longevity of the organization. So the organization is strong, but we can't do that forever. It was a short-term solution to solve the problem, but in reality, the way to solve is through additional folks helping us through this problem.
How long ago did you see this coming, that rainy day fund running out as a possibility?
Yeah, it really changed right after COVID. You're talking 2022, and it matches the decrease of when kind of giving started to really go back quite a bit. So last 3 or 4 years have been noticeable.
So you knew eventually that you couldn't pull from your investments anymore, and you'd have to reduce the amount you could give.
And I'll say that the board of directors and staff work every year so that you don't have to do that, because you commit to that and then you go and you work your butt off to close that gap and make sure that you're receiving the funds that you've allocated. The alternative is that you lean on your endowment.
Yeah. Carrie, I was told that you've already informed your partners about this. I'm wondering how those conversations were.
Yeah, since I started, I've been trying to meet with everybody. My first focus was meeting staff and getting to know them. But then I met with a lot of the partner agencies that they seemed to know that this was coming, kind of had planning of it. But it's hard. I mean, they need the support. We need to be there to help them as a community. But they were understanding, I believe, and now it's time to get the gloves on, and how do we keep on digging in and helping them.
So a lot of these agencies were given the 1-year grant instead of a 3-year grant. They were given 1-year grants. But the 1-year grant would be less than what they would have gotten in a previous 1 year?
What the board would previously approve was a multi-year commitment at a fixed level. So what we chose to do this year is to commit that just for 1 year. And the goal is to stabilize, how much can we give on an annual basis. And then we're hoping to exceed our funding this year so that next year continues to increase.
Now, I appreciate you having this conversation with me, but it was you all that reached out to us to put this message out. Carrie, I'm wondering why now and what you hope comes of the conversation we're having.
Yeah, we need your help. We need the community's help. We are a community nonprofit where these partner organizations need our help. So we are launching the fact that you can go on our website and we have all of our partner agencies listed, and it directly goes to their pages for donations. Let's get the funding in their hands that they need, and let's support them in the way that we can. I know CNY, and we are in it for each other, right? We're here to support each other. And I know that we can do this.
Ryan, a similar question to you. Why is now a good time to speak about this, and what do you hope results in our conversation?
We need more help. We need more people to lean in and say, look, if you can support, a couple $100, help us out and try to close this gap, both for our partners here in the short term by donating directly to our partners. We're trying to help our partners here as well as the United Way. Go to the United Way's website, click on that on the Rise Up link, and you'll be able to make a donation to any one of our partner agencies. We're trying to close the gap for those folks here in the short term, while, like I said, preparing the organization for the long term.
If someone is budgeting for their family and struggling already, but they do have some charitable wiggle room, why pick the United Way over someone else? Especially if your work basically, why would they choose the United Way over someone that you partner with already? Why not go to them directly? I
mean, with us, we give out to multiple, so you're able to do a greater impact. What I love about United Way is we meet with other funders and we collectively figure out how to get that impact out there. But if they're passionate about that place, fantastic. Give to what you want to give to. But we're here to be a convener. We're here to make the true impact, bringing the funding together and fill those gaps that are needed.
Newsmakers is back with the United Way's funding cuts. The same week this announcement was made, the United Way hosted its annual Day of Caring, including at the YWCA, one of the organizations hardest hit by the loss of funding. It's not every day kids get to color with this orange. Otto, part of the United Way's Day of Caring. Physical labor at other locations, but at the YWCA on Syracuse's north side, the adults come for a day of play. How many years have you done this?
Oh, since I remember. We've been participating with United Way forever.
This year feels a bit more complicated, at least to those tracking the budgets. This event proves they're still partners, but the YWCA had its funding seriously cut by the United Way.
People will say, but it's only $38,000. But the reality is that those $38,000 were used to match a New York State funding, which is $168,000.
Equaling a $200,000 impact, about 15% of the YWCA's budget.
I was in shock when I read the email. I was like, oh! So I sat there and then I was thinking, okay, so I go and tell the staff about it or not. I said, maybe I'm going to tell them, but at the end of the day.
Others got hit harder. Catholic Charities' $500,000 award last year is down to only $15,000 this year. The Salvation Army's $375,000 funding also down to only $15,000.
It's the appropriate time to take a step back to make sure that we're giving what we can afford to give. But the reality is that we all need more right now.
My heart was broken. Maybe this is a great opportunity for everybody to learn more about what the YWCA does.
Maybe some money will follow. The United Way is now asking for the community's help by donating to the United Way directly or to your favorite charity that's been hard hit by these cuts. Go to UnitedWayCNY.org. For all the hardworking people of News Channel 9, have a great weekend.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.